So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this channel named Geeks for Geeks School. So, that's what the game is which we were developing yesterday, and today we are going to continue the same game. Now, what all things have we coded yesterday? That's what I would like to show you first. So, we are done with defining the code for this green background, which you are able to see at the back of this window. Besides that, we're done with defining the code for this player of ours and this enemy player, right? And if now we want to move this player of ours in the left direction, we can press A key for doing the same. And if we want to see it moving in the right direction, we can simply press D key for moving it in the right direction. So that's what we coded yesterday. Now, what we are going to do today, that's what I would first like to show you, and after that, I'll show you the code with the help of which we can make that possible. So, we are going to now code today this thing. As you can see here, this player is there is an animation which we are able to see happening over here to this player. So we are able to see it moving. The layers are moving. What is happening basically? The sprites are changing and the time delay is very less, because of which we are able to see this beautiful kind of animation happening over here. Then if I'll press this A key for moving this player in the left direction, then this will appear to us as if he's running in this left direction. Similarly, if we want to see it back on the screen, or we want to see the player running in the right direction, we can press the D key and we'll be able to see the player running in the right direction. Right, so that's how we can make the player run in both the directions. Right, and if you want the player to jump at any point of time, you can press W key for doing the same. Like this, you can make the player jump at any point of time. Right, so we have defined a floor kind of thing here. This red line which you're seeing is a floor, and we have defined this gravity for this floor so that we can make this player go stable as soon as it comes in contact with this floor, like this. Right, so that's what we are going to do today. That is what we are going to learn to code today. So stay there with me and don't skip any part. Right. Okay, let's come back on this shoot1.py. So I'm going to come right on the top, and here the first thing I would like to do is let's define a variable with which we can keep a check on the gravity part. So we can come down over here, clock.pygame.time.clock. Okay, so here we can define a variable. Uh, let's define a variable with name gravity. I think that will be good. So initially I would like to keep it as 0.75. I think that is going to be a good option. Let's now come on this class named soldier, which we defined yesterday for creating our player, if you remember. But before defining the code here, let me first show you something. So what I have done in this folder where the code and all these sprites are saved. Let me just show you that folder first. So it's there in this Python named folder, right, where all my Python files are there. So this is the shooting game which we are right now developing. So here what I have done, I have created this img named folder, and inside this I created 5 different folders. Right, so today we are going to concentrate on only these 4 folders, and tomorrow I'm going to show you how can you make the player shoot. For the same, I'm going to show you what all things I have in this icons named folder. right? So if you will come inside this death named folder, you'll find all these sprites over here. So these sprites I have put in this death named folder. Similarly, in this idle named folder, I have placed all these 5 sprites, right? And then in this jump named folder, I have placed only 1 sprite with name 0. And then in this run named folder, I have 5 different sprites. Right. So you know what is happening when we are pressing the A key, D key. So all these sprites are, the sprites are getting changed. So the first sprite that gets visible to the user is this one, right? And then it changes to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and the change which takes place is so fast that it appears, the player appears to us as if it is running, right? So that's the concept which I have used for making the player appear as if it is running. Now let's define the code with the help of which we can access these sprites on our game window. So for this, I'll have to first uh, come inside this init function. So we don't have to change this thing. Let's define uh, this character type. I think this is required for checking the characters, whether it is the death, whether we are trying to call these characters which are there in this death named uh, folder, or idle named folder, or jump named folder. So for that, let's use this char type variable for checking whether the this player is alive or not. So we can use this alive named variable. It is totally your call. If you want to use some other variable, you can do that. So I'm initially, because it will be alive initially, so that's the reason I have assigned it with this true value. Then it's time for us to define the speed. We already have a variable over here with the help of which we're going to keep a check on the speed part. Then this is for the direction, and let's define something with the help of which we can keep a check on the velocity along the y-axis. So let's have this variable vel underscore y. Right, now we need to define a variable with the help of which we can keep a check on the jump. Right, so jump is that variable. Now if whether the player is in air or not, for this, for checking this, let's define another variable in underscore air, and let's initialize it with this boolean value true. Right, and then we have this self dot flip, which is I think perfectly fine. We require this. Okay, what else do we need? Self dot flip is equal to false. This is perfectly fine. Now we need an array kind of thing in which we can store all the images. So self dot animation, we can define a list kind of variable. I think that will be a very good option. Right, so let's make it an empty list, because as you can see, in this death named folder we have 8 different files. In this idle named folder we have 5 different files, so the number of files in these folders are different. So that's the reason it will be great if I define this empty list so that it can take any number of arguments. So then we can have this self frame underscore index. This is for calling these with the help of these index numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, okay. And then we can make use of this variable action. Perfectly fine. It's time for us to define something with the help of which we can update the time. So update underscore time is the variable which is going to help us in doing the same. Now from where can we from where can we do this? We can use this get ticks, right? We can use this function get ticks, and this will help us in updating the ticks or the time. Okay, now it's time for us to load all the images for the players. So for that, let me see how can we do this. So in this soldier, we have all these variables. Let me put them all together. Perfect. If I am running, sorry, if I am running this, so what am I going to get? Let me just check it. So right now it is this. Fine, we have to change it to this. Right, we have to change it to something like this. Okay. Self.update, we are done. So it's time for us to load all the players images, right? What we can do, we can make use of this animation underscore types. Let's have this variable in which we are going to store the names of all the folders in which the files are there. So the name of the first folder is idle. Name of the second folder is run. So it's a very important concept to know about if you want to create an animated game. This concept is going to help you a lot. And we can have this folder named jump, and as you can see we have all three folders present over here: idle, jump, run. If you want to define, if you want to add this one to this list over here, you can do that also, but I don't want to code. I don't want to define the code for this one now. We are going to do it later on, maybe in the next lecture, right? Then we have to access all the images. So for that we can make use of an for loop. So let's have this variable animation. So for animation, in animation, sorry, animation underscore types, right? Is everything going fine? Yeah. So for, okay, let me just, yeah. So for animation, in animation types, what should happen? So we need to reset the temporary list of the images first. So temporary list we can create this folder. For example, in this idle named folder, we have 5 files. So we have to first count the number of files. What we can do, it's very simple. We can make use of a variable, let's say number of frames. Okay, and then we can use this length function, len, and then there is a function in this OS. It is list directory function. If you know about this, it's a very good function with the help of which you can find out the number of frames you have in a particular folder. Then we need to pass the name of the folder. So we can put an F, sorry, we need to put this F first, and then inside these single inverted commas, we can put the name of the folder in which all the folders are there. So these folders, these 4 folders are there inside this img folder. So img is the main folder, right? So img you can pass here, and then you can put a slash, and after that, because we have used this animation named variable here, we need to put these 2 brackets, and inside this we can put animation, right? It's very simple. When you will do it on your own, you will be able to understand it in a more better way. It's very simple. So we are done with defining the loop. Now it's time for us to come to this next line. So this is going to help us in counting the number of frames. Now let's define another for loop. So it is going to be a nested for loop because we are going to define it inside the first one. So this is the child for loop and this one is a parent for loop. So for I in range, and I would like to keep this as range for this for loop. Okay, so img should be equal to pygame dot image, and then we can load the images. Now, how to load the images? Again, it is very simple. We can simply copy this code from here. Just a second. It is load, and then we can copy this whole thing from here and we can put it here. Now, the images are with name 0, 1, 2, 3. So that's what we can get from this I. So what we can do here, along with this whole thing, we can put this slash, and then we can simply put these brackets. Inside this we can put I dot png. So this is going to be the name of the first image. Suppose the value of I is initially it will be 0, right? So 0.png will be the image which the user will see first, and it will get updated automatically to 1. So it will be 1.png, and likewise we'll be able to see other images also. As so you know likewise we'll be able to see the other images also, right? We have this all the frames that are going to appear on the screen, and now it's time for us to append all the frames to this temporary list, right? How can we do this? So that's what we have to think. It's a very simple line of code that you can use for appending all the frames to this temporary list variable. Simply you have to put this temporary list over here, and you can use this function append. You must have heard about this function, right? And all the things are going to come in this image named variable. So that's the reason I've put image here. It's time for us to come out of this for loop, and let's define self dot animation list. It's time for us to append these this temporary list to this dot animation underscore list. Okay, and then self dot action. I would like to see it moving, that's the reason action. And then every image is going to have a specific index, has a specific index number. So frame underscore index we can put here, right? And then self dot rect, this is going to define a rectangle. This is perfectly fine. So yes, so that's the code with the help of which we can make the player appear as if it is moving, or you can add some animation to your player while it is moving or while it is stationary also. Then also you'll be able to see it, some you'll be able to see some animation thing happen. Okay, it's time for us to come down and check the next thing. So we have this move function. Dx is equal to d0, dy is equal to 0. We don't have to change anything here. Then we have this moving left. So if moving left, if this condition is true, then dx should be equal to. So we don't have to change anything here. This will also remain as it is. Okay, so now if we want to make the player jump, see the way we have defined these conditions over here for making the player move in the left and right direction. The same way we'll have to define a condition for making the player jump. So if self dot jump is equal to true, right? And there is one more variable which we have to check the value of, which is in air. And if it is equal to false, okay, if jump is equal to true and this is equal to false, means it is not in air, and what should happen? Then the velocity y, because the movement will take place along the y-axis, right? The value of y decreases. That is the reason -11 I have assigned, so that we can in underscore air, we can make it true. So it's very simple, right? And now it's time for us to apply some gravity. Okay, so self dot velocity y, so plus is equal to gravity, and now let's check the value of self dot velocity underscore y, the gravity. I hope everything is fine till now.